Hello students, good afternoon. Good afternoon all of you. Good afternoon. Yes, now again we will continue the class of immunology. So yesterday we have seen about various organs and how the immune system or the immune response generates. Now today we will be seeing what are the various organs and what are various cells that are responsible for generating the immune response. So the first line of defense is, yesterday we have seen what the galt and the malt is. That is, what is galt? It is a gut associated system, and the malt is mucus associated system. So the integumentary system is basically the skin, because the invader or the organism or virus or antigen, it basically comes inside through the contact with the skin, and then through the mouth it comes into certain mucous membranes, mucus, which basically provides a physical barrier and does not allow or prevents the microbial access. The exit or the entry of these microorganisms or invader or antigen or any bacteria virus will not, the skin will not be allowing it to permit the entry. Like the mucous membrane is also a barrier, mucus is also a barrier, because in the nostrils the hairs are there, a small tiny hairs which prevent the passage or basically the entry of these microorganisms, preventing the microbial infection. And that is the first line of defense. The skin, the mucus, that is the mucous membrane, these are all the basic physical barrier which prevents the microbial infection. In skin, that is in the epithelial surfaces, skin and epithelial surfaces cover the body and protects the individual by the invader or the infection or infectious bacteria, virus or any of the invader. Healthy skin possesses a antibactericidal influence, salts, drying sweat, and many of the perspiration or the long fatty acids which are present in the skin, they are not allowing the microorganisms or any of the antigen or invader or infectious material to enter. Therefore, skin, the epithelial surface of the skin, protects us from getting the infection. Wet hand predisposes to mycolic acids and pyogenic infections, so it does not get inside our system. Respiratory tract is again very important, where the mucous membranes and the mucus, they trap these virus or the chemical agents which are getting inside. The shape of the nose, as we know, that it does not allow any of the microbial species to enter in, because the shape of the nose is such that at the nasal orifice, and with that the hairs and all this type of the system, that is the basically a body makeup, is preventing the any of the material to get inside, as the pollen or any of the chemical agent or any of the toxin or any of the bacteria. The cilia, that is these hairs in the respiratory tract, they propel the foreign particles, and in the respiratory secretion, certain secretions are there, like mucus is there, it gets trapped in the secretion. And nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, then lower respiratory trachea, primary bronchi, and then the lung. So it has a capacity, basically the organ or the part of the body has a capacity which do not allow any of the microorganisms to come, and if it gets in contact with it, then it has a property to either phagocytose or basically it engulfs it and it get out from this, because it secretes certain material so that it get dissolved and it get killed. The oral cavity also, that's the saliva. Saliva is very important because it has certain amount of constituents which have a property, a bactericidal property. And as when any of our finger gets cut, then directly we put our finger in mouth. So the saliva helps in healing that. It is a primary action. It is the first line of defense. When anything cuts, our finger cuts or anything cuts, we directly put our finger in mouth so that the saliva. Most of the animals also have the leaking habit. They clean the parts. Say for example dogs, you have seen any of the pets you have at home, you know how these dogs, they leaks through the saliva and clean up that. The stomach is very important because it has a HCl, its pH is very low, and in stomach most of the bacteria, viruses, any of the infection, they get hydrolyzed there because of the high pH of the HCl. Large intestine, there are large number of bacteria which are engulfing, and therefore there are essential bacteria all over the body, on the skin, in intestine, in stomach, in saliva, and these bacteria which are useful. These bacteria, they engulf or they kills any of the infections. You are getting me? Am I audible to you? Yes, okay. Likewise, the conjunctiva. This is the first line of defense. Basically, when anything enters or invades our body, then what happens to the organs or what happens to the body? And this certain types of organs have a certain type of secretions, and these secretions helps to first give a first line of defense, resist from those invader. So conjunctiva, eye has a certain lacrimal secretions, as when we weep or we cry, the secretion is there, and these lacrimal glands has a secretion, a lysozymal enzyme, and this lysozyme which is there in the lacrimal glands, they basically cleans. The tears contain the antibacterial substances, that is lysozyme, and this is lysozyme which is in the sweat, in the urine, and in the lacrimal secretions like conjunctiva. They basically kills the first line of microorganisms or any of the invader. In cerebrospinal fluid, lysozyme is not present. Therefore, in cerebrospinal fluid is there. If the infection gets in the brain, then it gets infected. So saliva also has many chemicals that break down bacteria. 1,000 types of different bacteria have these chemicals which basically cleans. Likewise, other flushing action of urination, which drives out microbes in the urethra. So when we get up early in the morning, and we see when the urination is there, it flushes. So the microorganisms which are at the orifice, they get out from that urination. So urination drives out most of the unwanted microorganisms which are in the urethra. Likewise, spermine, which is present in the semen, is also having a property, and that spermine is a protein which basically kills the unwanted microorganisms which are in the semen. Then many of basically the blood, it may have a certain complement system, and that complement system has beta lysine, leucines, they have the lactoperoxidase in the milk. These all have the enzymes like the cholesterol, which is a thick milk which comes when the baby is born, and we have to, and a mother should give that colostrum because it is rich in the immune response generating material. So blood as a complement, because you know that the basic system, that is the WBC, are the defense cells in a body, and they give basically antibacterial substances are formed, and these beta lysine, leucines, lactoperoxidase, they have the property to kill the first line. Likewise, interferons. Interferons are the natural proteins which are produced by the cells of the immune system. Most of the vertebrates, in response to challenges by foreign agents, viruses, parasites, and tumor cells. Interferons belongs to the large classes of glycoproteins which are known as cytokines, and they are very useful in production or basically acting as an antibody. So interferons are the proteins which are produced by the immune cells, and they are very important for basically the secondary line of immunity they form. So normal flora which helps the invading microorganism, it kills the microorganism, and we call that as a microbial antagonist. And the skin, the mouth, the nose, small intestine, urinary tract, likewise lungs, stomach, colon, all have the property, all secrete certain substances and basically kills the infection. Now we harbor near 10 to 14 bacteria. Basically there is a normal flora which helps us for preventing these infections. This is the first line of defense. This group of organisms we refer to as a normal flora, as they are not like the plants, or that they are the basically microorganisms, and they are having a property, either they may be aerobes or they may be anaerobes, while each person has relatively unique set of normal flora. They have the gut flora, the skin flora, urinary tract flora, then respiratory tract flora. Every in the universe, every person is having a different type of. The person who is staying at the America will have a different flora because his genetic constitution and what it eats, how it acclimatizes the system. Because the person who is in India also, we are having different states, and different states have properly different food system, different pattern of living, and therefore the racial also, the genetic constitution also helps to get a specific type of flora in the stomach, in the respiratory tract. The basic conserved one of the flora is the same, as we know, the lactobacilli and many of that we have for digestion of the food. The specific microorganisms are same, but some microorganism, depending on or acclimatizing the system or the environment, they develop that. So when the acquired immunity or when the acquiring the immunity, the system, then they have a specific type of flora as they are living in a different environmental condition and different type of anthropological conditions. So streptococcus, bacteroids, they make up a large percentage of inhabitants. These organisms contribute to our existence in several ways. So there are streptococcus and bacteroids or bacteria. Now this normal flora, they help us competing with pathogens such as salmonella, because we are eating food, we are taking, and we know that salmonella species is causing a typhoid, that is a food poisoning. So it is related with the food. So always the pathogens are like salmonella, they are competing with the flora, which is essential flora of our body. They help us by providing vitamins or eliminating toxins. So certain type of flora which is having us, they eliminate the toxins which the pathogen like the salmonella or different types of organisms like cholera organisms, or they get inside and they basically infect. So there are our system, our flora, which is responsible for cleaning that. They harm us when any of the like salmonella or bacteroids, they promote a disease or dental caries are there, then certain floral system is not working normally and therefore the disease occur. So they harm, or the commensals are there, the symbiotic bacteria are there, the helpful bacteria are there, and if they bypass those, then the infection occur. So we have a different types of normal bacterial flora in conjunctiva, we have different bacterial flora in intestine, different bacterial flora in skin, mucus, respiratory, urinary. So it has a specific type of different flora which is responsible for the invaders. They prevent the invaders. Now this is the first line where the organs basically help to clean up or to generate the immune response, because most of the organs have certain types of parts, and those parts are responsible for certain secretions, certain microbial flora, and certain type of chemicals, hormones or secretions which prevent the invading or the infection. Now, the another type of immunity that we call is an innate immunity, that is through the mother we get. So, because of our genetic constitution, the cells are there, WBC is there, then T cells from the thymus, and B cell generation through the antibodies that are forming. So, Metcalfe in 1883 find out that there are certain types of phagocytotic cells or phagocytic cells. And phagocytic cells means they have a property, or their macrophages or microphages with the polymorphonuclear neutrophils, they have a property to engulf the invader or the infection or the toxin. Basically, they sip up. So, it is a pinocytosis. Pinocytosis means if any of the toxin is there, which is a poison, it drinks that. It is a liquid form, and the liquid means it is a pinocytic material, that is pinocytosis and phagocytosis. Phagocytosis means where the solid material has to be engulfed, and that is a process of certain macrophages which are present, and these macrophages with the neutrophils, histiocytes, they are having a specific property of amoeboid nature, like the amoeba, how the pseudopodia helps to engulf the food material. Likewise, these macrophages and microphages have property with the neutrophils or the polymorphonuclear neutrophils, which is having a amoeboid structure or amoeboid cells property to engulf this invading material. So, there are monocytes in the blood, then cells of the reticuloendothelial system. They basically helps to remove the foreign particles. So, there is a process, and Metcalfe in 1883 has given a definition of phagocytosis, and these macrophages have property of this amoeboid nature which engulfs the material or the infection or virus, particle, antigen, invader. So, these phagocytes, they are of several types, which are white blood cells. They are macrophages and neutrophils which seek and destroy the invader. Some also destroy the damaged body cells also, because the dead cells are there, they are also to be cleaned up by these. So, phagocytosis is a process which are attracted by an inflammatory response of the damaged cell. There is a swelling. The inflammation is the first part where anything gets inside the body inflames, and that inflammation is due to the phagocytosis or phagocyte cells. So, phagocytic cells reach the site of inflammation. They are attracted by the chemotactic substances and they ingest that particle material. So, how the phagocytosis acts? So, there is a process, there is a pathway line, or how it comes means what are the basic process that the engulfing take place. So, it goes through the cell, then it reaches the site where the inflammation is there, and after that inflammation, it sees that it has a property to attract by a various chemical agents, because when the infection is there, certain chemicals are released by the cell, and these chemicals attract that cells towards it, and chemotactic movement take place because of the chemical. It goes towards that chemical, and then ultimately it ingest the particle material, or it ingests that any of the invaders. So, there is a process of how the phagocytosis takes place. So, what is the process of phagocytosis? That you have to give in a detail every time a question comes, 2.5 marks question or a 5 mark, how a phagocytes acts, or what is the process of phagocytosis. There is a carbohydrate chain which is a lactane, and phagocyte or bacteria engulfs inside. So, a capsule in innate immunity, because we know that certain microorganisms, they are capsulated, and if they are capsulated, that is, for example, if it is a pneumococcal infection, as pneumococcal means pneumonia, Diplococcus pneumonia has a property to form a capsule around it. Last class we have seen some of the capsulated bacteria, because it has a covering over the bacterial cell, and that capsule, it basically prevents the microorganisms to be phagocytes or basically ingest. It does not allow the capsulated bacteria to engulf, and therefore the infection triggers. So pneumonia cells, Streptococcus pneumonia, Klebsiella pneumonia, they have a property to produce a capsule around them so that they can be protected. So the prevention or the innate immunity, there is a basic difficulty for innate immunity because these capsulated cells are not phagocytosed because they have a covering over it. We have to first remove that covering and then these bacteria get killed. So the drug that we have to design or any of the system in the body to be designed is to remove that capsule first. So some bacteria, they are capsulated and therefore these phagocytes or these opsonins, they do not phagocytes these capsulated cells or basic infectious bacteria like Streptococcus pneumonia. So they are fixed against certain substance such as alveoli. So they remain there and therefore in pneumonia cause the lung infection, and many of the patients now also in the COVID-19 infections are basically died because of this Klebsiella pneumonia because this capsule do not allow the drug to get inside or any of the system which is there like the flora or like the certain chemicals which are forming inside, they do not kill these capsulated bacteria. So it is a very difficult situation when a capsulated microorganism infect the body or the system, then it is very difficult to remove this because of the capsule. So this anatomical barriers, then mechanical factors, chemical factors, biological factors, then we have the humoral components, complement system, coagulation system and cytokines. Cellular components like neutrophils, monocytes, macrophages, NK cells and eosinophils. These are all basically the host defense system of the innate host defense system against the infection. So we have a specific type of immunity, as yesterday I told you about the innate infection and the acquired infection, or basically the innate immunity and the innate and the acquired immunity. So what are the anatomical barriers, what are the humoral components and what are the cellular components? As we know that anatomical means the structural, that is the body is made up of various types of organs, various types of cells, and humoral is various types of systems, that is the cytokines, then you have the macrophages, monocytes, neutrophils, monocytes, all eosinophils. These are all the cells of the WBC. Then humoral means it is a complement, that is of the antibodies fixation or the complement fixation, how these antibodies generate or form, and the certain cytokines and interleukins and interferons are responsible for acting against the infection. Phagocytes and their relatives, like the phagocytes are basically the cells which are from the WBC, and the phagocyte cells are eosinophils, neutrophils, basophils which are WBC. They are present in blood, these cells, because blood is made up of two parts, one is a plasma and another other cell. The 55% is of the plasma or cells. Blood comprises of 45 plus 55 portion. So 55% of the plasma or cell. Plasma. 55% is plasma and 45% of cells, where we have the RBCs and WBCs and platelets. And WBCs are of again granulocytes and agranulocytes. You are getting me? You know the classification of blood cells? Yes. So we have granulocytes and agranulocytes. Granulocytes, then nucleated and non-nucleated cells. So we have eosinophils, neutrophils, basophils. Their percentage is there. Then we have monocytes and we have macrophages, dendritic cells and mast cells. So these are basically the cells which takes or phagocytes the infectious cells or invaders. So these anatomical barriers and the various types of mechanical factors are there. So the system is there, organ is there, component is there, mechanism is there, and this works as a system of system or organ, then component, and then the mechanism.